Net worth versus income. What really makes you wealthy? Imagine two people. One earns $300,000 a year, the other earns $60,000. If wealth were obvious, the story would end here. But it doesn't. Because 10 years later, one of them is quietly rich, and the other is quietly stressed. Same city, same economy, completely different financial reality. This is the uncomfortable truth most people don't like to hear. Income can make you feel wealthy. Net worth decides whether you actually are. And confusing the two is one of the most expensive mistakes people make, not just financially, but psychologically. Because income is loud, net worth is silent. Income is what you tell people. Net worth is what keeps you safe when things go wrong. And right now, in a world obsessed with salaries, side hustles, and flashy lifestyles, the difference between the two has never mattered more. Look around. Social media celebrates income. Six-figure job, seven-figure business, eight-figure entrepreneur. Nobody posts their balance sheet. Nobody uploads a screenshot of their liabilities. Nobody flexes their debt-to-asset ratio. Because income is exciting, net worth is math, and math is rarely glamorous. But math is undefeated. Let's start with something deceptively simple. Income is a flow. Net worth is a stock. Income is water running through a pipe. Net worth is the size of the tank. One tells you how fast money comes in. The other tells you how much remains when everything is counted. Your income answers one question. How much do you earn? Your net worth answers a very different one. If everything stopped today, how long would you last? That second question is where things get interesting, because high income doesn't automatically create a large tank. In fact, it often creates the opposite. Consider the classic paradox. A surgeon earning $400,000 a year, luxury apartment, luxury car, private school fees, vacations that look like advertisements. From the outside, wealthy. Behind the scenes, mortgage, car loans, student debt, credit cards, lifestyle that consumes nearly every dollar earned. Huge pipe, small tank. Now contrast that with someone earning far less. Modest home, used car, money invested consistently, expenses kept under control, smaller pipe, growing tank. Over time, the visual illusion reverses, because wealth is not determined by what passes through your hands, it's determined by what stays. Net worth is brutally simple. Assets minus liabilities. What you own minus what you own. No opinions, no emotions, just subtraction. And this is where the popular narrative starts to crack, because society trains people to optimize income, better job, higher salary, more clients, bigger business. But very few people are taught to optimize net worth. Almost nobody asks, what is this decision doing to my balance sheet? Instead, the dominant question becomes, can I afford the monthly payment? That single shift in thinking is subtle and catastrophic, because affordability is about cash flow. Wealth is about ownership. A $1,500 monthly car payment may be affordable at a high income, but affordability doesn't magically convert a liability into an asset. The car still depreciates, the loan still exists, your net worth still shrinks. Income allows consumption, net worth measures consequence, and consequence has a long memory. There's another layer most people miss. Income depends on activity, net worth benefits from time. Income stops when you stop working. Net worth, if built correctly, can keep growing while you sleep, travel, age, or simply get tired. That difference changes everything, because human energy is finite, but compounding is not. A person earning $80,000 who consistently invests for decades can end up with a larger net worth than someone earning $300,000 who constantly upgrades their lifestyle, not because they worked harder, but because time worked harder. Compounding is one of the few forces in finance that behaves almost like physics. Small advantages accumulate, quietly, relentlessly, often invisibly. And net worth is where compounding lives. Income, by contrast, resets constantly. Each month starts at zero. Each year starts at zero. It must be earned again and again, which leads to a strange irony. High income can create a feeling of security, while actually increasing fragility. Because when your lifestyle inflates to match your earnings, your financial survival becomes dependent on maintaining that income. Lose the job, lose the clients, lose the business momentum. Suddenly the impressive income reveals its hidden weakness. It was never wealth, it was fuel, and fuel runs out. Net worth behaves differently. It represents stored energy, stored optionality, stored resilience. It is not just money, it is freedom measured in time. Time without panic, time without desperation, time without needing to say yes to every opportunity simply to keep the machine running. Yet culturally, income dominates the conversation. Why? Because income is easy to compare. Net worth is complicated. Income is visible. Net worth is private. Income feels like success. Net worth often looks boring. There's no dramatic moment when net worth quietly grows. No applause when liabilities shrink. No viral clip of someone resisting lifestyle inflation, but there are plenty of viral clips of spending, which creates a distorted feedback loop. People start chasing the appearance of wealth rather than its structure. Luxury financed by debt looks identical, at least temporarily, to luxury financed by assets. Both produce the same photographs. Both produce the same social signals. Only one produces stability. The other produces obligation. And obligation compounds just as aggressively as investments. Interest payments, maintenance costs, psychological pressure, the hidden cost of needing income to sustain identity. Because once lifestyle becomes self-image, downsizing stops being financial and starts becoming emotional. This is where net worth reveals another uncomfortable truth. Wealth is as much about subtraction as addition. Increasing assets matters, but controlling liabilities often matters more. A dollar saved is not just a dollar preserved. It is a dollar that no longer requires future income to justify past spending, which means net worth growth is partly defensive, partly offensive, partly mathematical, partly behavioral. And behavior, not spreadsheets, is where most wealth is won or lost. Two individuals with identical incomes can end up with radically different net worths purely based on decisions that look trivial in isolation. Housing choices, vehicle choices, debt tolerance, investment consistency, delayed gratification versus immediate upgrade. None of these decisions feel dramatic, but over years, they redraw financial destiny. Then there's risk. Income is typically concentrated. One job, one business, one primary source. Net worth can be diversified, multiple assets, multiple income streams, multiple buffers against uncertainty, which introduces a deeper distinction. Income is performance. Net worth is position. Performance fluctuates. Position determines survival. A bad year with strong net worth is inconvenient. A bad year with weak net worth is existential. And modern economies are not gentle with volatility. Industries change. Skills become obsolete. Markets shift. Technologies erase entire job categories. Income can vanish faster than lifestyle can adjust. Net worth is what absorbs shock. Yet paradoxically, high-income environments often encourage the opposite of wealth-building behavior. More earnings invite more consumption. More consumption demands more earnings. The treadmill accelerates, and speed disguises direction. Because moving fast financially is not the same as moving forward financially. A person can increase income dramatically, while net worth barely moves, or worse, declines. Which feels absurd until you realize something critical. Income is measured before spending. Net worth is measured after everything. Before is optimistic. After is reality. And reality does not negotiate. There's also a psychological trap hiding beneath all of this. Income provides constant reinforcement. Salary hits the account. Clients pay invoices. Business revenue arrives. Net worth growth is slower, less visible, less emotionally stimulating, which makes it easier to neglect, easier to postpone, easier to sacrifice for short-term rewards. Human brains are wired for immediacy. Wealth is wired for patience. That tension never disappears, even at very high incomes, especially at very high incomes. Because once basic needs are satisfied, financial outcomes are driven less by necessity, and more by choices. Choices shaped by status, comparison, and perceived success. Which raises a strange question. If income feels like wealth, and spending signals wealth, and society celebrates wealth signals, how many people who look wealthy are actually just high income, low net worth performers? How many impressive lifestyles are balanced on fragile foundations? How many financial identities depend on uninterrupted cash flow? In the inverse, how many quietly wealthy individuals go unnoticed because their wealth does not scream? Because net worth rarely announces itself. It hides in paid-off assets, in investment portfolios, in low financial stress, in the ability to walk away, in the absence of urgency. Which brings us back to the beginning. Two people, different incomes, different outcomes. Not because income is irrelevant. Income matters enormously. But income is potential energy. Net worth is realized energy. Income is opportunity. Net worth is evidence. And perhaps the most unsettling part of this entire story is this. At almost every income level, people believe the same thing. If I just earned a little more, then I'd feel wealthy. But what if the feeling never comes from income? What if it comes from the structure behind it? What if wealth is less about how much enters your life, and more about how much remains when life inevitably becomes unpredictable? Because eventually, something always interrupts the flow. A recession, a job loss, a health issue, an industry shift, an unexpected event no spreadsheet predicted. And when that moment arrives, income stops being a status symbol, it becomes irrelevant. Only one number truly matters. Not what you earned, but what you built. Which leaves a final, slightly uncomfortable question lingering in the background. If income is what makes you look wealthy, and net worth is what makes you safe, which one are you actually optimizing?